So welcome everyone. It's great to see you all. So tonight we're going to explore the topic of spiritual seeking and how that all fits into the awakening process. Often these kind of talks are called, the end of seeking or something along those lines, and talk about how seeking can be counterproductive on the spiritual path. But I'm going to take maybe another little twist. I look at giving this talk maybe 5 or 6 times over the years, and it's always a little bit different. Enlightenment or awakening or liberation or whatever we want to call it is the the ultimate desire of the ego. Some call it the final desire of the ego. And the reason is, as egos, we tend to roam around this planet trying to feel better about ourselves, and better ourselves in so many different ways. We think, if I had fill in the blank, I'll be happy. If I had $1 million, be happy. If I had a K car, I'd be happy. People don't probably know what a K car is. It's from a Bare Naked Ladies song. They kind of go through, I'd be happy if I had all these different things. And then we find that there may be a little shot of happiness that might last some time, but ultimately we come back to, again, a sense of dissatisfaction. We kind of feel like we're right back where we started in many ways. No matter how many of these desires get fulfilled. And then sometimes it happens when people are quite young, sometimes in midlife, they come to the conclusion that, maybe there's something else. And the ego goes, what about this spiritual thing? I hear that I see these real happy Zen masters and so on. And I've heard the Dalai Lama sure looks like a happy guy, and so on. Pema Chodron looks like a happy woman. Maybe I'll go down this and see where this goes. And it becomes kind of the desire then of the egoic mind. I'm going to get this. I'm going to become enlightened. I'm going to be an enlightened person. Then I'll be happy forever. I mean, that's kind of the promise, right? That's kind of the sales pitch of enlightenment. Really is that you'll be, let go completely, and you'll be completely at peace and happy. So the ego gets onto this and thinks, okay, this is what this is it. I didn't find happiness in all my other desires, but this is the big one. I think this is the big one, right? And the last one, because you're no longer kind of looking at it as getting stuff or relationships. It's now something completely, really something completely different. There's a deep sense of insufficiency with the egoic self, and the egoic sense of itself. Deep sense of insufficiency. I mean, it's seeing itself as separate from the whole, and because of that, it sees itself as very imperfect and inadequate in so many ways. So it has this desire to become more, become better, This is what drives the whole process. So that, and I don't want you to think that you need to, stop it. Stop desiring awakening. And in fact, the personal will, which is what the ego has, it's this personal will, the willpower, is really what gets us going on the spiritual path. It could be the personal will that is getting you to come to these talks and to sit and meditate. For many people, it's kind of like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to set a New Year's resolution. We were talking about this earlier, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to work out. And I'm going to meditate. I don't know what else you want to put in there. I'm going to be more generous. That's always a good one too. I'm going to listen more. I had that one for a long time. I wanted to be a better listener. And then I thought people would like me. So the personal will is very important in getting us going on this path. So if the personal will is what kind of motivates you to continue on the path, then by all means follow that motivation. It really gets things going for all of us, I think. Unless you have this kind of flash spiritual experience. Some young people have, quite young age, have a kind of an awakening or deep insight that happens. It just puts them on the path. It can happen at any age, actually. So there's other ways, but for some, it's this personal will that gets us going on the path. But eventually, this desire falls away too. So the personal will aspect of it is transcended and falls away. Because the egoic desire for enlightenment is no different than any other desire. It's got the same illusory trap. Right? I'm a separate self that's it's limited. It's limited and finite, and I need to get something called enlightenment to be at peace and to be happy. So it's got the same chemistry as all our other desires. It's got that illusory nature, and it's the same trap. So we can really find ourselves stuck if we're waiting for this separate self. If we see ourselves that way, becoming enlightened, we're really trapped in this egoic desire. There's an interesting Zen story. There's a Zen master and a student, and the student says, I'm going to go into the mountains and I'm going to meditate until I'm enlightened. What do you think? The master says, like any good master says, go for it. I have one request. Every month, can you write me a letter and tell me how it's going? The student says, yeah, I can do that. Sure enough. Just uses his pen and his papers, and off he goes and he meditates. Straight, just meditating. And he writes these letters, and every month the the Zen master gets the letter and reads it, and it says, I have known the infinite and become one with everything. And the Zen master crumples it up and throws it in the trash. Gets the next one. I have known the true existence of all beings and have seen the light of awakening. Throws it all, tosses it in the garbage. Keeps getting these kind of letters. Again, same reaction. And then several months go by, and the Zen master doesn't get a letter. He's going, oh, I wonder what's happening. So he writes a letter to the student, says, how's it going? You were very diligent with your letters, and I haven't gotten one. And he gets a reply back, who wants to know? The Zen master smiles. He could have said, there's nobody here to tell nobody what's happening, something along those lines. So this story is actually a trap for the ego, right? Because the ego thinks, oh, those all sound like really fantastic things. He's one with everything, and he's seen the supreme ultimate truth, and so on and so forth. But the Zen master saw those as egoic statements coming from ego. Saw them for what they were. The ego, that's what the ego wants. Those are ego desires, right? To have all those wonderful things that are actually part of the sales pitch of enlightenment in many ways. From what I see out there on the internet, a lot of times there's a bit of a sales pitch for enlightenment going on, and that's basically what he's getting fed back. If there were YouTube videos when that story was written, it would be a lot of the stuff that you hear about enlightenment on YouTube videos. And when you got the reply back, who wants to know? It's just a sense of there's no one here. There's no one here that's enlightened. So in the first instance, there's still a person there that's thinking it's attaining something through the practice of meditation. Right? It's attaining supreme knowing, or attaining a oneness with everything. And my personal story is the same. It's one of an egoic mind wanting to attain. I started off right off the bat on the Buddhist path. I'm going for it. I'm going for this, and of course I didn't fool around. I went straight to, if you can believe this, I don't know if I've ever told you this. My very first retreat was me living with monks and with Zen monks. Moved right in with them. They'd never had lay people live with them before. Did everything they did for months. And that was my introduction. So they'd get up at, I can't remember exactly, it was like maybe 10 to 4 a.m. And then start meditating at 4 for an hour and a half. And then another hour of mindful movement. The stick thing where you move was exactly the same, stick movements. And just intense practice, but it was all ego driven. Right? It was I figured if I did this, it's going to happen quicker. I'm going to get the goodies quicker if I dive right in this way. So so don't worry about it if this is happening. Don't worry about it. It's natural. It's natural. You can kind of watch the ego. I'm hoping that you hearing all this allows you to kind of go, little ego, there you are again, with the desiring and grasping and wanting betterment because of a trance of unworthiness, insufficiency. So you can see it. But it's natural. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing. It's not to. Don't judge when this happens, and don't try to stop it. Right? Stopping it is just more seeking. You see that? Just stopping the egoic mind from seeking is just more. You can notice it. And go, that's what's happening. I'm trying to stop. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to stop this kind of grasping at spiritual attainments. It's just more egoic grasping. And insights don't come from that grasping. Insights are all about how much of the self falls away. And when the self falls away enough, the seeking falls away. So I'll say that again. The insights are all about how much of the self falls away. The belief in the self falls away. So all the insights you have this element of the dissolving of the belief in a separate self. Right? And it's the belief in a separate self that drives the seeking. So as that starts to fall away, the seeking drive also falls away. So insights aren't about you having some great revelatory experience or attainment. It's about you seeing that there is no you having those experiences. That's an illusory notion of a separate self. I mean, you're still here. I don't want to get into that. There's still a person that's here. So I don't mean illusory in the sense that you're not real. But your belief in your nature is what's illusory, and that falls away. So insights chip away at that. Insights into seeing the selfless nature, seeing how you don't have control over everything, seeing how things are impermanent, seeing how you don't find happiness and peace from external circumstances and internal experiences. So you have these insights that just come up, that arise in your practice, and in each one, a little piece of this notion of a separate self falls away. You transcend the egoic self, or the egoic self falls away bit by bit. So that's really what it's all about. So I'm saying, if you have the seeking energy, don't try to stop it. You can notice it. And you can actually use that energy. So this is what's a little different. You can use that seeking energy in a different way. You can kind of invert it. So you have this energy that's moving you to seek. You can go, okay, I'm going to put this energy towards seeing through the egoic self, seeing my true nature, seeing the illusory nature of the self. So you're kind of inverting it in this way. You can use it to see the 3 marks of existence, so to speak. People are familiar with the 3 marks from the Buddhist teachings. The 3 marks of existence are the unsatisfactoriness of external circumstances and experiences, the impermanence of everything. Nothing is permanent, even nanosecond to nanosecond, and the selflessness of everything. Nothing has an inherent existence. It's all dependently interdependent. Dependently interdependent, is that? It's dependently co-arising. Everything's dependent on everything else. So these are the three marks. So you can invert that energy, that seeking energy, towards seeing those three marks of existence. Because there is an energy there that's that can be helpful, used in a helpful way, a useful way. So that's how I'll pose it to you, not to try to stop it, because that's just more seeking, more grasping, resisting seeking, but rather to take that energy and use it in a useful way, in a way that allows insight into your true nature. And as insights arise, there's kind of a spontaneous stopping. The egoic seeking just naturally stops. You think about it, when if the energy is, if the energy is put into seeing the three marks of existence, for example, or the five aggregates is another useful place to put the energy. The sense of a separate self falls away. So what is left there to seek? There's nothing left there to seek, because all your illusory sense of self is a bunch of beliefs, and when those beliefs fall away, there's nothing left there that can then get any traction to seek. There's a Zen master, Sing Tan. Don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. It's quoted as saying, "Do not seek the truth, simply cease cherishing illusions." The Zen master kind of said in very few words what I've been trying to say for 20 odd minutes here. Do not seek to find the truth, simply cease cherishing illusions. So he's pointing to that notion of the egoic self that's seeking. So the instruction is to, rather than seeking that way, notice how the illusion of a separate self is what keeps the whole seeking game going. The quote from Ajahn: "Seeking truth can be a game, complete with a new identity as a truth seeker, fueled by new ideas and beliefs. But ceasing to cherish illusions is no game. It's a gritty and intimate form of deconstructing yourself down to nothing. Get rid of all your illusions, and what's left is the truth. You don't find truth as much as you stumble upon it when you've cast away your illusions." Want me to read that again? That's packed full of wisdom. Seeking truth can be a game, complete with a new identity as a truth seeker, fueled by new ideas and beliefs. So we become the spiritual guy, right? Or spiritual woman. We just become spiritual person. I'm now spiritual. You go to parties, you talk about spiritual stuff now instead of snowboarding or whatever. So it's a new identity, and there's all these new beliefs. But seeking to cherish illusions is no gain. It's a gritty and intimate form of deconstructing yourself down to nothing. Get rid of all your illusions and what's left is truth. You don't find truth as much as you stumble upon it when you cast away your illusions. So you're undoing the ego. Or the ego kind of undoes itself by relentless struggle for more. The ego's relentless struggle for more is really what undoes itself, deconstructs itself down to nothing. And when it's deconstructed itself down to nothing, it's just this natural stopping. It's not something you do. It's just a kind of natural. The illusions are cast away, to use Ajah's word, and what's left is truth. So when this spontaneous stopping of searching occurs, there's then just peace and joy left in what is unfolding in the present moment. It doesn't matter what it is, because there's no more struggle with what is. And so we talked about last week how we create suffering by struggling with what is. When this seeking the last desire, the final desire, which is seeking enlightenment or truth, just stops. Because it's the final desire, all that's left is acceptance of what's unfolding in each moment. So there's no more. The struggle ceases. The struggle that we spoke about last week simply ceases. I'm going to actually conclude with a quote from Ajah as well. Now, don't think that awakening is the end. Awakening is the end of seeking, the end of the seeker, but it's the beginning of a life lived from true nature.